Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the QRL Show Live. My co-host Michael Strike and I from the QRL core team are joined by QRL's lead blockchain developer, Kaushal Kumar Singh. Kaushal, it's good to have you with Michael and I.
Yeah, it's my pleasure too.
Yeah, we're just excited to a lot of hard work and development by the entire team has been going on in recent months uh, within the roadmap, the progress, the weekly updates. A lot of that stuff is being seen, but even more is going on behind the scenes and moving towards mainnet. So, any opportunity, Michael and I can host a conversation with you in a development AMA format. It's always good for us, and it's something that is helpful for the community to stay abreast on where things are headed in this post quantum secure blockchain world that everyone is headed to. So, Michael, I think I'd like to maybe start out for I don't know, maybe give a brief 15, 25 seconds about who we are as QRL, and then we can jump right into the heart of the Dev AMA. We've pre-pulled in a good handful of questions from the different social platforms, X, from Discord, from community members asking some great questions. We'll be doing some live questions as well. But Michael, do you want to just give a brief high level of what QRL is and where we're headed? And then we can jump right into the Dev AMA.
Yeah, if you're new to QRL, we were the first blockchain to use government grade NIST post quantum security. We've been mainnet for about 8 years now. We're moving into QRL 2.0, which is going to add EVM compatibility, smart contracts, essentially all of the capabilities of Ethereum, and we're also migrating over to proof of stake. It's been interesting to see some of the narratives around, in the Bitcoin community over hash-based signature schemes and MLDSA and some of the other post-quantum primitives that we've been, some of the stuff that we've been running for years is now being considered by the Bitcoin as a potential option in one form or another. So that's been interesting to see, but we are moving forward. We are currently wrapped up somewhere in there, the third-party independent audits, and we'll be moving forward with QRL 2.0. Good things to come.
Awesome. No, thank you, Michael, for giving that high level. Obviously, community members will be aware of that, have a little more sense for the direction. But for those tuning in, whether you're tuning in on X on the live stream, YouTube, or you're watching this at any point a little bit later, our project has been post quantum native since day one in 2018. Been in the leading edge of that, and this conversation we're having right here with our project's lead blockchain developer is an added opportunity to go over a variety of development related questions. So, without further ado, I'm going to pop up on screen just our little our show tab here. We can jump into QRL Development AMA with Kaushal. Um, we'll just kind of cover just a little housekeeping, Dev AMA, a little bit of a quantum on ramp, next steps for builders, developers to take next as we wrap up. And for those of you viewing, if you weren't able to ask a question you had, big or small, related to development, to what you can do in testnet, maybe you have some questions around, well, how do I take a current smart contract that I have? I'm a Solidity developer. I want to port it over and bring it to QRL in some fashion or another. Maybe you have some questions around that. Anything else in between, drop those questions. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pop up the first question for those that are maybe listening. Maybe you're doing some dishes, you're sitting at a job wishing you could just be going down the quantum rabbit hole, or maybe you're driving and commuting. I will read out the questions for those viewing. That way, if you're watching with us and looking at our faces or just viewing in, you'll be able to follow along just the same. So the first question I'll read out comes in: how much of the existing Ethereum developer ecosystem carries over to QRL 2.0? Can developers still use things like Solidity, MetaMask style workflows, hard hat, and familiar libraries and such? So take this one away, Kaushal. I think they just want to know, hey, how much stuff carries over in that toolkit? I know we've touched on this previously, but it'd be a great opportunity to do that again.
Yeah, sure. So Luckily, all of those things that you have mentioned, like Solidity, MetaMask, and Hard Hat familiar libraries, we already have all those three of them. So like we already have got Hyperion, which is just like the Solidity compiler with some changes in terms of opcodes, which just because we are having a different kind of cryptographies. So like that, we already have a wallet which is already being used since testnet 1.0, which is very much similar to that of MetaMask, which from which you can make transactions, do stuffs, very much similar to that. We the like this time we also worked on the code. So what we did, like we forked the code of hard hat, we made it changes to make it compatible with our own QRL 2.0. So we already have that being tested internally. It's already in progress, and I mean it's already working for now. I can say it's already working. What more we are doing is like we are even adding some kind of integration so that you can write your Hyperion code, the QRL 2.0 smart contract code directly on the VS code, get it compiled, things like that. Because uh, in Hard Hat, you have these kinds of extensions where you can write your code into Visual Studio or VS Code. So that's what we are doing. We are also writing the same kind of things so that you can write your code or develop your smart contract or your dApp into the VS code, and then you can do everything whatever you want. We will be supporting the same libraries which are very much close to that of Hard Hat. So yeah, these things are there. One important part would also be something like the library like Open Zeppelin. So that is in our plan too. But first of all, we need to make sure that Hard Hat, like the library similar to Hard Hat, as well as the VS Code extension, both are totally functional. And then we will be moving to this opens a Zeppelin stuff, so that all those libraries which are available for Ethereum will also be available for the QRL 2.0.
Perfect. That
So
helps cover it. Anything to add on that one, Michael? I think that kind of gives a little
yes,
added context. We'll
this,
have a couple other. Yeah.
the goal here really is to leverage existing Ethereum knowledge bases and developers and make it as easy as possible to run your code on QRL 2.0. You'll be able to take your source code, recompile it, run it on our chain as well, and have a point. It probably will be running dual chain at that point if you decide to run on both Ethereum and QRL 2.0. But you'll be able to, you should in one way be able to tell your customers that you have a fully post-quantum secure option, so you don't have to just give the blank stare when they ask what are you doing about post-quantum security. So we're
Yeah.
making that process as easy as possible.
Yeah. No, and there's a couple other questions that are mixed in within the AMA as we'll get to in a few moments. But this kind of ties to, Jack and I and our core team have had a couple of good conversations around this and mentioning, hey, developers that are building currently on QRL and ones that are about to, you just want to be able to build with confidence, knowing that, hey, if as stuff progresses, am I going to have to build this all over from scratch? Is it going to work well if I'm taking something existing and bringing it over? So those are kind of a couple main themes to questions that it's helpful to give people as much info as we can on that. So thanks for covering that first one. The next one we got on here, Kaushal, I'll read this one out. QRL 1.0 and QRL 2.0 are quantum secure since Genesis. How do you see bridging or interoperation across classical chains taking place, if at all? That's the next question we got on the docket.
Okay, so you are talking like interoperation between QR 1.0 and 2.0, or is it like
Yeah,
something
Strike, do you have
between?
context on you pulled this question in
Yeah,
as
it would be
yeah,
so
yeah.
QRL quantum resistant, fully post quantum resistant chains operate essentially in a post quantum secure silo. Right now, QRL 1.0 does not have the EVM compatibility. It's more like Bitcoin in a way. QRL 2.0 adds utilitarian function. So I think the question is around how, as far as bridging QRL 2.0 with classical systems, do you see that possibly being a post quantum secure DSA bolted onto Ethereum as far as a new transaction to at least secure the transaction while it's in flight, or do you, atomic swaps or post quantum secure atomic swaps? Do you see any? How do you foresee, if you even do foresee, any type of interoperability between classical and post quantum secure blockchains?
Makes sense. So one thing which is very much uh, possible right now is kind of atomic swap, where you can do some swapping. But if you really want something which is post quantum secure and you want some inter operations between two chains like Ethereum or QRL or something like that, which I believe or I think would be the best way to do is to use some kind of zero knowledge proof, especially ZK Stark, because the ZK Stark is itself quantum secure, and using zero knowledge proof, you can answer a few questions like if the transactions actually happened on that blockchain. Because when you are dealing between two different blockchains, one side cannot see what's happening on other chain, other side cannot see what's happening on that chain. So the only way you can do is you have to prove that okay, this has actually happened on other chains, and if you are sure about that, then you can trigger some transactions here based on whatever input or given on other chain. But in that case, to prove that something like that has happened on other chain, it's very expensive if you just verify all the blocks, all the transactions, and then decide like okay, at this particular block number everything is true and this has happened. So the best way to use something like efficient way to know actually something has happened on other chain, and because of that this should happen on our chain. So for that the best way to do is like zero knowledge proof, where you just give some small output, you just give that. If that proof verifies, then that means okay, everything on that chain is makes sense, and now we can trigger something like that. So I see potential in zero knowledge proof like ZK Star, and if that is possible on two chains, then I see there is a huge possibility to have some interoperability between two chains.
So one of the interesting things about that is I don't think there's anywhere in the ecosystem there's a fully post quantum secure chain that's not either a hybrid chain or some variant that has some variant or some vulnerability, but that is fully post quantum secure that's interfacing with legacy quantum insecure or legacy classical chains. I don't think that exists anywhere today. So um, we'll see how that develops out. Um, I think that'll be an interesting scenario.
Yeah. I'm going to jump to the next one. This is by Crypto Gizmo. I'd love to know how crypto agility works more in depth for a blockchain working towards MLDSA 87 and Sphinx Plus. How does one make the cryptography interchangeable, retaining your private and public keys, not affecting them? I know there's going to be a little bit of overlap between a couple of these questions, but can you see that one on screen, Kushal? There. Do you need me to read that one again or parts of it to try to answer this one more broadly for others that might have a similar question there? Maybe on that last part. Let's see here.
Mhm. Yeah. So this one for the crypto agility, I think there are two ways. One is like on our side, if we see that like there is some new cryptography or there's some issues with the existing cryptography, how fast we can move away from one to another, how fast we can implement it in the code, how fast we can deploy it, how fast the user can start using the new cryptography in case something happens or something bad happens or anything like that. So for that, we have built internally, like we have descriptors, we have some types which help us to define like which cryptography is currently being used. We still have reserved like several, like I think 1 byte is there. So we can still support like 255 cryptographies at this moment, and out of them only two are used. Like which one is MLDS87, other is Sphinx Plus, but we still can support more if something comes in the future. That's one way we see it right now. other way which we plan to do that in future, which is again this goes to the same things like zero knowledge proof. Like if you can prove that you own the seed of your wallet, then in even in the bad case you can just give the proof or zero knowledge proof about that, and you can get everything transferred from your wallet, from your from your older cryptography to a different wallet generated from the new cryptography, something like that. So it's powerful with the zero knowledge proof, just because in case something bad happens you can simply make changes in the code to deny making any transactions from signing normally. Instead that you need to use some zero knowledge proof to prove that actually you know the the seed of your wallet, because in that case, assuming that the vulnerability has not revealed your seed, like there is some cryptographic vulnerability, which means uh, the security of the signature has been compromised. Like the people can derive your private key using the signature, but they cannot derive your seeds. You even if they know your private key, they cannot derive the seed. So that's one way to have, like, you prove that using zero knowledge proof that okay, I know the seed, my seed has not been compromised, but the normal transaction has been closed, and so I know the seed. I give the zero knowledge proof without revealing my seed, and then that way we can allow someone to uh, move to the new cryptography, which doesn't have any issue, something like that. That's one way. uh, and that still has to be like more research has to be done on that part, because it's zero knowledge target is very much powerful thing. It can do lots of things, it can solve lots of problems.
Yeah.
That's one. And the final way is the user themselves can do things like that, like they can deploy a smart contract where they can have someone like their MLDSA 87 wallet as an authorized wallet, and they can have all their funds tokens into that smart contract. And in that case, so when they have their funds and tokens into one smart contract, and the smart contract address is fixed, so you have a smart contract, its address is fixed, and now you want to change your let's say wallet from MLDS 87 to something we have implemented new. All you have to do is you just, if you have the function, if you have implemented that function, that you sign from your existing wallet that I want to move authorization from this wallet to a new wallet which I generated using a new cryptography. So in that case, that's also a part of the crypto agility. What happens here, your address remains the same because your address is basically derived from the smart contract. The smart contract has the code where you have already mentioned that my existing MLDS 87 wallet is my authorization wallet, so I can make all transfers if I sign and send to the smart contract that send funds to here, send funds to there, something like that. And if you have the function that if I sign that okay, remove my authorization, add a new wallet to that, so in that case you can easily move from one to or multiple cryptography without changing your address. So that's another way.
Appreciate it. While we jump into the next question, I'll just quickly show, just for anyone that's jumping in. We're obviously on a QRL Show live Dev AMA with Kaushal, lead blockchain developer on our team. So as we're going through this, anyone that has any questions, we pulled in a few dozen prior in Discord, on X, etc. But if you're as you're watching this in real time, any of the platforms, feel free to drop in any additional questions in the show chat in the comments, and we'll as we work through some of these questions, we had quite a number to get through. We will try to get to them. So I'm going to jump to the next question here. I'm going to pop it up on screen, and then we can go through it together. This question reads out: Hello. Once QRL 2.0 mainnet launches, what are the three key infrastructure pieces? I don't know. I'm curious why they said three that still need to be in place for major exchanges. Any exchange related questions? We're gonna these obviously we have a markets page on our website, so these we keep that up to date. So any exchange related ones, obviously we'll go to that. Let's go to the next one. We got quite a few. This one comes in from Car, and this one reads: From an institutional perspective, what do you believe are the last major infrastructure requirements before QRL 2.0 could realistically be used by a regulated financial institution, for example, custody, compliance, RPC infrastructure monitoring, liquidity exchange support, or institutional grade tooling. And which of these are already solved? A couple, a little bit within one here. Um, Anything to note here on this one, Kaushal and or Strike?
Strike wants to go on, or do you want me to say?
Go ahead. Go ahead first. I'm still reading through the question.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So I will say it's like the first basic things that all of these institutions, whether it's exchange, whether it's like uh, someone who's making monitoring or someone developing some kind of tools, for everything we need a documentation. That's the first thing, because people want to understand how things are happening, so at least there has to be a documentation to understand how you can do the basic stuffs there, like how you can make transactions, how you can generate wallet, how you can call the APIs, how you can run the node, and all those things. So OS, hardware requirement, everything. So the first thing starts from the documentation. That's everyone understand. No matter whether you are a programmer or not, at least there is a documentation so that even a layman can understand that what's happening. If not everything, if not all the technical parts, but at least some things.
Yep.
Then comes the API stuff, because when you are running a node, you need to call it, you need to ask it to take some action. So you need appropriate APIs, which includes everything, like to give you a notification if some transactions have happened on a specific wallet, because you are monitoring a wallet, so you need that those APIs. With that also comes the hardware wallet, which doesn't matter whether it's an exchange, whether it's a liquidity provider or any financial institution, they will always need a hardware wallet support for the cryptography or for the blockchain, to make sure that they can secure their vault, because they don't keep everything into the hard wallet, so they want something secure. So hardware support is one of the major thing after this API, because with just APIs and with just documentation, you can still make room in lots of exchanges, lots of financial institutions. But without hardware wallet, it will be hard to hit, like top tier exchanges or top tier financial institutions, where funds are very much critical and the security is something that they never compromise with. So these three are the most important part, like things like that. But it's never the last, because when you have these kinds of things which are supporting the project, you always have to make sure that it gets updated. Because if you have a node, like the new OS comes, new Ubuntu versions comes, you have to make sure that your node supports the new version, your node supports the new if you have written it in Go language, then it should support the latest version of Go language, because older had some issues, and like that it should support new operating system. So you also need to keep updating that, so that people can run it on the latest hardware, latest softwares, like that, latest operating system, things like that. So I believe these are the four important things, and we are good on them. Like we are already ready with hardware wallet support for MLDS 87, which we did, I think last year. We already did that last year, so that was working. We are already working with the documentation, including the hard hat that I have mentioned previously, that we already have things which is internally being tested. It's functional, working with the new version of this QRL 2.0, but we are still adding more documentation to that. So documentation is still in progress. APIs, we already have API support, which is required by everyone, like no matter what you are doing. If you are dealing with the QR 2.0, if you are an exchange, you are a custody, you are doing some kind of monitoring or infrastructure support or anything like that, you always need to call the API. So we already have the API support along with the documentation. So yeah, we are doing that. And the important part, which I already mentioned, hardware wallet support. So yeah.
Yeah, and as we jump into the next couple questions, thank you, Kushal, on that. For any developer that's listening or watching in on this, as we've said in past episodes, as we move forward towards mainnet, there's a really big opportunity for building on QRL 2.0 and a lot of advantages in building early. And we'll point to a few best places as we get a little bit later in the Dev AMA in terms of if you're a builder, a developer that's watching this. places that you can springboard and jump in, whether you want to, stay up late tonight and start getting something going, or over the course of the next month or two, want to get stuff in motion. We'll get to a few best places for you to do that momentarily. I'd like to jump to the next question here in our docket. Um, Let me share the screen here.
On that
Uh,
last one, I think I'd add 10 years since we've been running since 2018. Also, I think that also says something important. And also, we've been running stable for the past 8 years or so too. So
yeah.
those a couple things I'd add. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to try to get the screen going in a second here. We will, while I'm waiting for it to load, I'm just going to read out the next question here, and then I'll try to get it to pull back in. The next question comes in from Paul. I'll read it out while I'm trying to get it set up on the stream. If QRL 2.0 successfully passes its audit and launches Mainnet, what are the biggest remaining obstacles between the technology being ready, production ready, and QRL being adopted by major developers, stablecoins, exchanges, and financial institutions? And which of these are you already actively working on today? I'll try to get it up on the screen in a second, but that one's the next question in the docket here. If you want to jump to that one, Kushal.
I can read.
Okay. Uh, for this,
Go ahead.
it's like if we pass audit, that means we are already production ready, because what we are working right now is trying to make it see if there are some issues, so that we do not need to get lots of things in the audit report. We don't want to get lots of stuff, but if we get that, we need to fix that. So what we are doing, trying to make it completely as best as possible in terms of production ready. We have already added last week like nightly builds, so that any change we make in Go QRL or Chrism, it builds automatically, and we know that if the tests that we have are running or not. So we are going to add even more tests to ensure that every change we make, every single line of code we change, it doesn't impact. So it's like the test that we are going to add further is like look into if the staking deposit is working or not, if withdrawal is working or not, if the reward is still in the same way as it used to be calculated. So more tests will be added. But if we pass the audit, that means we are already production ready. But that doesn't mean that we have finished everything. Like from everything, I mean, we are good to launch, but we still have things that we have to do, especially because this is a post quantum secure blockchain. So we have a different challenges to do something like related to the scalability. So once the audit pass, all our job is to look into how people can migrate from QR 1.0 to 2.0, document that, and then we need to start uh, working towards the launch of the mainnet. Because passing audit is like we are production ready, because we are not going for an audit unless we are ready from our sides that okay, code is ready, we can launch the minute. All we need is the green signal from the auditors. If they find something, we need to fix that. But okay, if we pass the audit, all we have to do is some documentation how people can start and how they can migrate from their wallet or whatever they have from QR 1.0 to 2.0. So there will be a separate documentation for migration protocol, how what you have to do from your sides, and we will clarify. Like I don't think there will be any kind of uh, a short time limit. There will be huge time you can do migrate. I don't see any situation where we need to block migration after some years, unless in future some super quantum computer comes and it starts breaking the hash functions, which I don't think like ml xmss is going to happen with xms. So yeah, we will have a long time for the migration. Like people can do that unless something bad happens. But yeah, that's it. And things that we have to work to make it uh, to make it scalable, because if it's not scalable, that means things will take slow, because the more people will start using this blockchain, that means there will be more transactions, and more transactions means you need, because of the big signature size, you should be able to handle megabytes, or maybe if could go to gigabytes, then that's a different story. You gigabytes of transactions into
Yeah.
the block. So you have to work on scalability. There
Yeah.
are ways for the scalability for non-post quantum blockchain, but for post quantum blockchain, this is a very new area, and that has to, like, we need to keep an eye what's coming in terms of cryptography, but how we can use it, how we can gradually move towards more scalable blockchain.
I appreciate you
I think
covering that. Yeah.
another thing, Ryan, is going to be really important is clear documentation. Something for search engines and LLMs to pick up as far as the ease in migrating your project over from Ethereum onto QRL 2.0. So definitely want that to be picked up by the AIs, want to be picked up by the search engines. I think a couple some short term content that could easily just be, let's say you're on a project, let's say you're working on an Ethereum project, and you just want to bump a message to a colleague, say, hey, what about this quantum thing? You know, why don't we just, why not just recompile? Why not just take our code, recompile it, run it over here too, see how it goes? The cost of entry is low, but some short-term video content that's in line with the documentation, I think would be really helpful. And you and I have already talked about working on that.
Yeah, I think the next, just for context, anyone viewing the Riverside stream isn't allowing the slideshow. So I know when we started out, we had some of the questions in the docket showing on stream. For our continued AMA, I'll read out each of the questions. So anyone that's viewing, you see it the exact same. I'm just going to read out the questions out loud. Anyone viewing in audio will hear the questions much the same. The next question I have is around a little bit in the category of someone interested in building. I'll read this one out, and then we can give them an answer from you, Kaushal, and then Strike and I add into it. The question reads as follows: I have a few ideas for what I want to build. Someone in Discord, I think, mentioned a couple weeks back a place where I can take a look at what other people are building on QRL. Where can I find that link again? So I'll start out with I think they're referring to QRLecosystem.com, which is, we pointed to this in a past episode, but there's a community driven effort for helping to surface and showcase all the great projects already at this point that are starting to be built on QRL. So that URL again is QRLecosystem.com. Definitely check it out, whether you want to see what people are starting to build early, whether you want to get inspiration, see maybe if there's a lane where someone hasn't built in the category yet. Anything to add to that one, Kaushal or Strike? I know that was a little bit more of a me giving a call to action to remind them that that's probably what they're referring to based on their question. But anything else to add to that, guys, on that one?
No, let's drop the link in the
Yeah,
description
show notes.
of the video as well. Yeah.
Yep. Next one I'm going to read out this is a question that came in from Charlie. I just watched Ledger's CTO interview, and it sounds like Ledger added MLDSA to their SDK. Are we using that capability for the new Ledger app? And in general, what's the state of the Ledger app for QRL 2.0?
Yeah, so for the Ledger app, as I mentioned, we already have that working with MLDS 87 last year. So it's already there. But now I have seen that, like, the Ledger has actually added MLDS 87 implementation in the code, but it requires you to enable some of the flags, because by default it is not enabled unless you enable those flags, and it doesn't support all the hardware. I think it doesn't support Nano Ledger S, but it should support. I think it support Nano Ledger X, and so I just need to confirm what
Yep.
hardwares they support, just because of the memory constraint it has. So if it supports all of the hardwares, we will directly call that API which they have provided. The ledger, they already have MLDSA 87, so we don't need to worry about that. Like, they have the exact MLDSA 87 parameters there, and it works. But we need to make sure if it what hardwares it works. If it works in all those hardwares in which our code works, then we do not need to have those large codes that we have written from our side to make it functional. And then we can simply call the APIs, and then we can get it signed. But other than that, we already have, like, even if they haven't implemented that, we already have that functional in the ledger code, and we already tested that with nano ledger X, and it was working. It was able to sign, verify, and things like that.